Your uncontrollable food cravings start in your head, not your body. They have less to do with nutrient deficiency and more to do with the neurostructure of your brain. How is your struggle with these addictive food cravings affecting you, your life, your relationships? Now is the time for you to step in and take charge and overcome these challenges. Hi, I'm Maria LiPuma, the creator of Body Confidence Solutions, where I help health-conscious women release excess weight naturally, enjoy food freedom, and step into their lives with more confidence and esteem. I struggled for years with addictive food cravings. I remember the emotional pain, the physical pain, when I wasn't able to control my food intake. I would get on a food plan and have firm resolve that I was going to do what I wanted to do to align with my health and fitness goals. And out of nowhere, like an alien was taking over my body, I would be hijacked into running to the store, running to the refrigerator, turning to food when I really didn't want to in the first place. I remember the shame of sneaking food. I remember the remorse after a binge. There were times when I would eat so much that my body would be numb. I would just fall asleep and wake up the next morning feeling physically in pain, emotionally in pain, and so much remorse and guilt and shame. And then trying to figure out my next step, firm resolve to not do it, and before I knew it, I was back in my old pattern again. Emotional eating, addictive food cravings kept me stuck in a cycle that resulted in shame, guilt, and a feeling of powerlessness. Out of my despair, I resolved to figure this out. I felt deep down that we weren't intended to live this way, in so much misery and so much pain. And so I embarked on a journey of uncovering everything I could to get to the core of this problem so that I could be free, not only for myself, but for the other women in the world who were also struggling with addictive food cravings. And the path I've taken and the things I've learned have certainly informed my own healing, but they've also informed the work that I feel called to do today. Today, I live free of addictive food cravings. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing some valuable information and a technique that's going to enable you to feel empowered and to be free of addictive food cravings as well. You may be thinking, well, I'm a hopeless case. I've tried this many times. There's no hope for me. But I'm here to tell you that there is a solution. And it's not about exerting more willpower. It's not about trying harder and stronger. It's about understanding the chemistry of your brain and the new research into how you can actually change the chemistry of your brain to be free of addictive food craving. There is no doubt that certain foods have physically addictive qualities. The food industry goes through great trouble to make food addictive. They make it extra processed, extra salty, extra sweet. And what that actually does is when we take those foods into our body, it stimulates the pleasure center in our brain. It creates dopamine, and dopamine actually makes us feel pleasure. But what happens is when we take in these addictive substances over time, the dopamine, because we're producing so much excess dopamine that it down regulates, which means that there's less receptors to produce the dopamine. So over time, we have to actually take in more of the addictive substance in order to feel that sense of pleasure and satisfaction. So it's in the brain. There's a part of the brain that lights up when we are presented with even the thought of certain foods. So giving in to addictive food cravings is not a lack of willpower. It's because the pleasure center in the brain has been stimulated, and it becomes part of your neurostructure and your chemistry. And I know this could sound disheartening, because if it's in the brain, then what do we do about it? But we know today with neuroscience that we can actually change the brain. And the good news is that we have evidence now showing that there's a certain technique that actually has been successful in changing the brain. Have you heard of emotional freedom techniques, also known as tapping? Well, tapping is a form of acupressure where you stimulate various parts of the face and upper body. And what you're doing is you're stimulating meridian points. What that does is it actually relaxes the body. It creates a relaxation response in the body. And when you're in a relaxation response, that changes the hormones in your body, it changes the chemistry of your body. And Dr. Peter Stapleton, a researcher out of Australia who has been practicing EFT for many years, decided to do a research study on the brain. And it's resulted in the first MRI brain scans with people that applied tapping in regards to addictive food cravings. It's very exciting because you can actually see brain scans of before and after. As I said before, when we have an addictive food craving, it stimulates certain parts of the brain. And in a brain scan, you can see that those parts of the brain actually light up. There's more oxygen flow to those parts of the brain, and they light up in a brain scan. And so what Dr. Stapleton did was she took two groups of people, a control group and a group of people that applied emotional freedom techniques, tapping. And I'll tell you more about how to do this and why we do it as we go on. But for now, as I'm explaining this, I'm going to just elaborate on this study. So she took two groups, a control group and a group of people that applied this simple meridian-based technique. And after 4 weeks, the control group, who did nothing, stayed the same. And the tappers, after 4 weeks of applying emotional freedom techniques for 2 hours a week, when they took the brain scan, those parts of the brain that had formerly lit up stopped lighting up. Now, the participants also were not craving the food any longer. So the brain scan was just to see the changes in the brain. Now, I get to see this magic all the time in my practice with clients because it is effective and it does work. And now we have scientific evidence that shows us why it's working. It's actually changing our brain. So again, if you are succumbing to addictive food cravings, it's not about willpower. It's more about those parts of the brain that are lighting up and forcing you to give into it. You can use this practice, use this process, and overcome addictive food cravings. I've seen it work time and time again with my clients. As a matter of fact, I remember not too long ago, one of my clients who, just like me, found herself running out in the middle of the night, getting food because she was hijacked once again by a craving. And once we started to apply this simple technique over a short period of time, we not only addressed the physical craving, but we also addressed the emotional connections that were associated with that food craving. And just that alone enabled her to no longer run to the store for her fix. It's pretty miraculous and it's pretty exciting. So let me show you a little bit more about how to apply emotional freedom techniques and how to apply it specifically to a food craving. So if you're having a food craving, you often will feel it in your body. It takes over. It becomes a part, like an uncontrollable feeling. And a lot of times when I'm working with clients or working with students, we want to address the food craving even before we get to that point. Because sometimes when we get to that point of no return, there's no time to stop and do anything. We're just busy jumping into it. So you can start this from a neutral place of calling to mind a food that you typically crave and start there. And then once you start there, so you're making a conscious effort to work on the food rather than in those moments where you're just reactive and can't really take the time to do this. Of course, this works in the reactive moments also, but if you're compelled to act out in an addictive food craving, you may not be thinking, let me do something else. So I want to suggest that you call to mind a food that feels uncontrollable at times. Maybe there are times when you can say no to it, but there are times when it really calls you. Maybe you have difficulty even keeping it in the house because you can't trust yourself around it. Or maybe you have created a pact with yourself that I'm not going to have this for a certain amount of days, and then once the days are up, you then succumb to it. I want you to call forth a food that you find to be irresistible, that you have difficulty saying no to, or maybe when you're feeling triggered in some way, that's your go-to food. Maybe you go to crunchy, salty things. Maybe you go to soft, creamy things. It's usually a high concentrated food, sometimes processed as well. So I want you to give yourself permission to think about that food. Think about how you feel when you think about it. And I know a lot of times when we have food cravings, we try to push the thought away. We don't want to think about it because we think if we're going to think about it, then we're going to want it, and we don't really want to have it. So I want you to give yourself permission to actually acknowledge and think about the foods that you're craving. Pick one particular food, and we can work on that here today. So I know this idea of pushing it away is a way to try to control it. But when we push it away, there's an expression, what you resist persists. So we don't want to push it away. We want to acknowledge that we have it. We want to acknowledge that we have this challenge, that this problem. And the way to release it is actually to let it move through you, because feeling all those feelings, feeling all those sensations affects your biochemistry and affects the changes in your brain. So you want to allow yourself to feel all of that so that you can release it and ultimately let it go. So emotional freedom techniques is a simple meridian-based therapy. I'm going to put a link below so that you can learn a little bit more about it. But for today's purposes, I'm going to show you how to apply it for addictive food cravings. What we do is we stimulate various meridian points on the face and upper body. And by doing that, you're actually activating a different emotional response to things. And the way it shows up is that we're basically rewiring the brain. The things that would trigger us in the past and put us into a reactive response are given a signal that it's safe and you can calm down. And in that sense of it's safe and calm down, you are actually changing your somatic response to it. And so that ultimately changes the brain. And as we see in those brain scans, you can actually change the brain. And I'll also put a link to the research so you can actually get a look at those brain scans to see the before and after pictures. They're pretty exciting. So if you want to work on this now, get ready. Make yourself a space and follow along with me so that you can learn how to apply this amazing technique and learn how to bring yourself more freedom so that you can be empowered to say no to addictive food cravings. What you have to do first off is call to mind a food that you feel addicted to, that you feel powerless. Maybe a food that you can't feel like you can't even live without. There was a time in my life I thought I couldn't live without ice cream. And you might be thinking, oh, I don't want to give this food up, so I might not want to do this. I still want to eat my ice cream, or I still want to eat my chips. But when we work on this with tapping, we don't have to give it up forever. We can choose to have it. We can choose whether we want to have it or not. And you can choose to have it and have some and not have to have the whole thing. Wouldn't that be nice, right? To sort of be normal around these foods. Well, that's exactly what tapping can do for you. So it doesn't take away your desire for the food. It just takes away the addictive quality of it. And so you are free to make a choice rather than being compelled to have to succumb to it. So I want you to call to mind that food craving, that food that you're craving, and think about it. And as you're thinking about it, take a moment to think about how that feels in your body when you think about that food. Maybe you're salivating. Maybe you're feeling it in the cells of your body. You might be feeling energy, the anticipation of having it. Or maybe it's a mixed bag. Maybe you have feelings of guilt or shame that you don't want to be feeling it. So there might be a contrast, a conflict going on in you. There's a part of you that really, really wants it, and there's a part of you that really doesn't want it. For me, I had a love-hate relationship with food for a long time because I loved it, and yet there was a part of me that hated it because it had so much control over my life. So you want to acknowledge all of that, all of those feelings, all of that's coming up for you around that. Think about the food. Think about how it feels when you think about it. On a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being the most, how much do you want that food? How much is the angst around that food for you? Maybe the conflict of it, all the emotional feelings you have about it. And measure it on a scale of 0 to 10. And once you have that measurement, just to notice where you are on the scale so that you can notice if there's any shift or any movement. You can write it down for yourself or just remember it. So with tapping, we start on the side of the hand. This is called the karate chop. We stimulate this meridian point. We take a deep breath in and let it go. And that might already be calming you down because I might have activated something in you just by what I was saying. So as you're tapping, take a deep breath in and let it go. Just let yourself relax. And then take another deep breath in. And on the exhalation, relax your shoulders and relax your body. And one more time, breathing in and letting go. And call to mind the food that you crave and notice how you feel. And I'm going to say some words, and if you're in a comfortable, safe place to do so, you can repeat these words out loud if they feel true for you. If not, you can change them to words that are more true for you. So we start with something called the setup statement, where we accept where we're at. So even though I have this strong food craving, and it brings up all kinds of feelings for me, I'm open to accepting myself right here and right now. Even though I have this strong food craving, and it's taken charge of my life for way too long. Today I'm choosing to accept myself and trying a different way. Even though I have this strong food craving, I accept myself. And take a deep breath in and let it go, and just notice how it feels to say those words. Maybe it's bringing up some emotion for you. Maybe it's bringing up some conflict for you. Just allow it all to move through you. Ultimately, we want to accept where we're at before we can make any changes. So you want to embrace it all and accept where you're at. Now close your eyes, take a deep breath in again, and think about the food that you're craving. Notice how that feels in your body. See yourself going to get the food. Maybe you have a ritual around the food. Maybe you have a favorite bowl or spoon that you use for that food. I want you to play it out in your mind and notice the thoughts, feelings, sensations that move through you as you're thinking about having that food, the anticipation, how that feels, what that looks like, maybe the feelings that you have as you are going to the food. And tap the top of the head. This is the first meridian point. Take a deep breath in and let it go. And just notice how that feels on your head. Maybe you're feeling a little awkward and silly. That's okay. Just accept it and embrace it. Take a deep breath in again and let it go. The next point is on the forehead, the third eye. And again, take a breath in and let it go. And then we tap on the eyebrow point, just where the hair of the eyebrow begins. Breathing in and letting go. And then tap the side of the eye. Breathing in and letting go. And then underneath the eye. Take another breath in and let it go, and allow all of the thoughts, feelings, and emotions that are coming up for you right now to flow through you. If there's some resistance, if there's a part of you that's saying this is ridiculous, just go with it. You absolutely have nothing to lose by trying this. Tapping the top of the lip, take a deep breath in and let it go. Crease of the chin, breathing in and letting go. Then the collarbone, so where the bone sticks up, that little indentation underneath. Take another deep breath in, let it go. You can wiggle your shoulders, get the energy flowing. Breathing in and letting go. The next point is underneath the arm. Take a deep breath in and let it go. Don't worry about doing it perfectly. Just do the best you can with the points. I will share a video below where you can learn a little bit more about this technique and the tapping points. Tap the top of the head, take a deep breath in again and let it go. Now this time, I want you to close your eyes, again if you're in a safe and comfortable place, and tune into the food that you crave and think about it. Think about the feelings that come up for you. Think about how you feel in your body when you think about eating that food. Tap on the third eye. Think about the sensation of the food in your mouth. Maybe it's crunchy. How does it feel to crunch? Or maybe it's milky and sweet and slithers down your throat. On the eyebrow, tune into the sensation of the food, how it feels, allowing it to move through you. The side of the eye, take a deep breath in and let it go. Underneath the eye. and go back to it. Think about the last time you ate it. See yourself getting it, preparing it. Where are you eating it? Are you sitting in a comfy place? Are you sitting in the car? Just allow all the thoughts and feelings and emotions that come up for you as you are thinking about that experience. On the collarbone, take a deep breath in and let it go. Underneath the arm. Top of the head. Even though I have this strong food craving, and at times it feels uncontrollable, and I have all these feelings and emotions that I associate with it, I accept myself. Even though I've been plagued with these cravings for a long time, today I choose to accept myself, and I'm trying a different way. Even though I have these strong food cravings, I'm curious if this could help me. Take a deep breath in and let it go. Crease of the chin, the collarbone. Take another breath in and let it go. Underneath the arm. Ease and flow. Release and let go. Top of the head. Breathing in and letting go. And as we're tapping, what we're doing is we're releasing blockages in the flow of energy. And as our energy flows, it's easier to release and let go. Let go of the craving. Let go of the emotions attached to the craving. So saying ease and flow, giving the body permission to release and let go. Ease and flow. Release and let go. Breathing in and letting go. Top of the head one more time. Take another deep breath in and let it go. And then you could release your hand. You could shake out your hands a little bit. Wiggle your body. Another breath in. Let it go. And I want you to tune into your body and yourself again. Remember that number you wrote. Think about that food craving. Notice if the number shifted at all. Now, you might have activated the craving and the number has gotten bigger. So that's a good thing because it's telling you that maybe you are minimizing the craving and we want to bring it up before we can release it. But it's likely that that number went down for you. And so if you keep tapping on that particular food craving, you're going to release the charge. And as you do that consistently over time, you can actually change your brain. Now, another thing that happens when we tap is because we're activating the relaxation response and we're taking our body out of the fight, flight, freeze response, we're actually calming down our whole system. And when we're in a fight, flight, freeze response, what happens is not only does all the adrenaline and cortisol get us prepared to run, but the blood vessels in our brain also constrict and our thinking is not clear. And that's why we're also more impulsive because we're not clear thinking. So when you are tapping, what often happens is you get a cognitive awareness because your thinking comes back on board and you have a deeper understanding of maybe the driver, what was pushing you, driving you to that addiction, maybe the emotions connected to that food. Because oftentimes we have emotional connections to food. Maybe you associate eating that food with an experience you had, with that client that I spoke about before, she had a strong connection not only to the way that food tasted to her and the comfort that it brought her in the moment, but as we worked on it and we sort of unraveled the onion a little bit, we realized that she associated eating that food with a family experience that she had. And now that she lives far away from her family, on a deeper level, she was craving closeness with the family. And so wanting that food, eating that food, was her attempt at creating an emotional experience that reminded her of the closeness with her family. So, as you tap, you get the awareness of what the emotional connections to the food are, as well as healing the body and changing the brain chemistry so that you are no longer driven by the addictive food craving. So you can go back and tap again with this video, but I'm going to also leave a link so that you can drop in a little deeper and apply this tapping more specifically to binge eating, to overeating, and also another video just telling you a little bit more about emotional freedom techniques. It's a wonderful tool. It's central to my practice of helping women be free of food cravings. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I would love to hear if you tried it, if you felt like it was effective, or you have any more questions about it. If you like content like this, please subscribe to my channel, like this video, share it with someone that you know might be struggling with addictive food cravings, and look at the research. I'm going to share a link to the research so that you are convinced to try this practice, and also what the science is showing us, that your biology is not your destiny, that neuroplasticity is a real thing, that we can change the brain, and we have tools and techniques that can do that. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to the next time. Bye now.